My boyfriend humiliated me at a party for not posting about him on Instagram, then his mom and sister joined in attacking me online. When I broke up with him, they all begged me to start fresh. I had other plans. I need to get this story off my chest because honestly, even 6 months later, I'm still processing everything that happened. My therapist says writing it out might help, and my friends keep telling me I should share this somewhere because apparently it's absolutely insane and other people might relate. So here goes nothing. My name is Maya, I'm 24, and I work as a digital marketing coordinator for a mid-sized company in Denver. This detail is important because it becomes relevant later. I know social media inside and out. I understand analytics, engagement, and how to find information online that people think they've hidden. It's literally my job to understand how digital platforms work and how people behave on them. I've always been pretty private about my personal life on social media. Not because I'm hiding anything, but because I just prefer to keep some things to myself. My Instagram has maybe 200 followers, mostly close friends and family. I post occasionally, travel photos, food, maybe a sunset if I'm feeling basic, but I've never been one of those people who documents every moment of their life online. It's just not my personality. 8 months ago, I met Jake through mutual friends at a brewery in Reno. He's 26, works in tech sales, and seemed really charming at first. Tall, good-looking in that generically handsome way, confident without being arrogant. At least, that's what I thought initially. He was funny, seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me, and we had good chemistry. When he asked for my number, I was genuinely excited. Our first few dates went really well. He took me to nice restaurants, we had interesting conversations, and the physical chemistry was definitely there. But I started noticing some red flags pretty early on, though I convinced myself I was being paranoid or overthinking things. The first warning sign was how obsessed he was with taking photos of us together. Not just normal couple photos, but constant documentation of every single thing we did. At first, I thought it was sweet. He'd want to take pictures of our food, us holding hands, me laughing at something he said. But then he'd immediately post them with these elaborate captions about how amazing I was and how lucky he was. Again, sweet in theory, but something about it felt performative rather than genuine. Like he was more interested in showing people he had a girlfriend than actually being present with me. The pressure started subtly. After we'd been dating for about a month, he started making little comments about my social media presence. "You should post that photo from dinner last night," he'd say. Or, "Did you see how many likes our picture got? You should post more of us together." When I didn't immediately jump to post every moment of our relationship, his suggestions became more direct. "Babe, you barely post about us," he said one evening as we were watching Netflix on his couch. "People probably don't even know you have a boyfriend." I laughed it off, telling him that the people who mattered in my life knew about him, and that I preferred to keep some things private. He seemed to accept this explanation, but I could tell he wasn't entirely satisfied. As our relationship progressed, his complaints about my social media habits became more frequent and more pointed. He'd compare me to other couples we knew, particularly his friend Mike and his girlfriend Sarah, who posted multiple photos and stories about each other daily. "Look how cute Sarah's post about Mike is," he'd say, showing me his phone. "She really knows how to make her man feel appreciated publicly." I started feeling like I was in a relationship with Instagram rather than with Jake. Every date, every moment we spent together, was viewed through the lens of whether it was post-worthy and how it would look to his followers. He had about 1,500 followers on Instagram and seemed to treat his account like a personal brand. His posts were all carefully curated to show this idealized lifestyle, expensive restaurants, weekend trips, gym photos, and yes, couple content featuring us. The thing is, I did post about him occasionally. I'd share photos from our trips, tag him in stories when we were out together, and post pictures of us at events. But apparently, this wasn't enough. According to Jake, I wasn't posting frequently enough, my captions weren't affectionate enough, and I wasn't making it clear enough that I was proud to be with him. About 4 months into our relationship, the pressure reached a breaking point. We were at his friend Connor's birthday party, a pretty big gathering with maybe 30 or 40 people at Connor's apartment in Capitol Hill. I'd met most of these people before and generally liked them, though I always felt like Jake's friend group was more concerned with appearances than I was comfortable with. The party was going well. I was having good conversations, enjoying myself, and feeling relaxed. Jake had been drinking more than usual, which typically made him more demanding about social media stuff, but I was trying to ignore it and just have fun. We'd taken a few photos together earlier in the evening, which Jake had immediately posted with a caption about date night with my beautiful girlfriend. About halfway through the party, I was talking with a group of people near the kitchen when Jake appeared beside me, clearly agitated about something. He was scrolling through his phone with this frustrated expression that I'd learned to recognize. "Maya," he said, interrupting my conversation with his friend Lisa. "Can I talk to you for a second?" I followed him to a slightly quieter corner of the apartment, assuming he wanted to tell me something private or maybe suggest we head home soon. Instead, he launched into what I can only describe as a public lecture about my social media habits, but his voice was loud enough that the conversation I'd been having stopped completely and people started staring. "I just checked your Instagram," he said, his words slightly slurred from drinking. "You posted a story about Connor's birthday party, but you didn't mention that you're here with me. You didn't tag me, you didn't say anything about us being together. It's like you're ashamed of me or something." I was immediately embarrassed and confused. "Jake, what are you talking about? I posted a group photo of all of us. You're literally in the picture." "That's not the same thing," he said, getting louder. Maybe if you actually acted like you had a boyfriend online, people would know you're taken. This is embarrassing. Sarah posts about my constantly, why can't you be more like that? Why is it so hard for you to show appreciation for your relationship publicly? The entire party had basically stopped what they were doing to watch this confrontation. I could feel my face burning with humiliation. Here was my boyfriend, criticizing me in front of all his friends for not posting about him enough on Instagram. The absurdity of it was almost too much to process. Jake, can we please talk about this privately? I said, trying to keep my voice calm despite the fact that I wanted to disappear into the floor. No, I think we should talk about it now, he continued. I'm tired of feeling like I'm dating someone who's too good to acknowledge our relationship online. It's selfish and it's weird. Normal girlfriends post about their boyfriends. Normal girlfriends aren't ashamed to show they're in love. The silence in the room was deafening. I looked around and saw expressions ranging from uncomfortable sympathy to outright shock. Lisa, who I'd been talking to earlier, looked absolutely horrified. Connor, whose birthday we were supposed to be celebrating, was clearly trying to figure out how to handle the situation. I felt tears starting to form in my eyes, partly from humiliation and partly from anger. This person who was supposed to care about me had just dressed me down in front of 30 people because I didn't post about him enough on social media. The pettiness and cruelty of it hit me like a physical blow. You know what, Jake? I said, my voice shaking but clear. I think I'm going to head home. I grabbed my purse and jacket and walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear Jake calling my name, his tone suddenly shifting from aggressive to apologetic, but I didn't stop. I called an Uber and waited outside, trying not to cry until I was safely in the car. The ride home was a blur of anger, humiliation, and disbelief. My phone was buzzing constantly with texts from friends who'd been at the party, asking if I was okay and expressing their shock at Jake's behavior. Lisa sent me a particularly sweet message saying that everyone was talking about how inappropriate Jake had been, and that she was sorry I'd been put in that position. When I got home, I sat on my couch and really thought about my relationship with Jake for the first time without making excuses for his behavior. This wasn't the first time he prioritized his online image over my feelings, but it was definitely the most public and humiliating. I realized that somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being his girlfriend and started being a prop in his social media performance. That night, Jake sent me several texts that progressed from defensive to apologetic to angry and back to apologetic again. I was drunk, he wrote. I didn't mean to embarrass you. I just get frustrated because I love you so much and I want everyone to know how happy we make each other. I didn't respond that night. I needed time to process what had happened and decide how I wanted to handle it. 3 days later, while I was still deciding whether this relationship was worth salvaging, I received a text message that made my decision for me. It was from Carol, Jake's 52-year-old mother, whom I'd met several times and generally liked. The message was long, lecture-filled, and completely inappropriate. Hi Maya, the text began. Jake told me about what happened at the party the other night, and I feel like I need to reach out as a woman and a mother. I think you owe Jake an apology. Real women support their men publicly, and your generation doesn't understand what commitment means. When I was your age, we were proud to show off our relationships. We understood that part of being a good girlfriend is making your man feel valued and appreciated, not just privately but publicly too. Jake is a catch, he's successful, handsome, and he treats you well. You should be grateful to have him and show that gratitude. I raised my son to expect respect and support from his partner, and frankly, your behavior is selfish and immature. I hope you'll think about what's really important here and make the right choice. I read this message 3 times, each time becoming more incredulous. Jake's mother, a woman I barely knew, was lecturing me about how to be a girlfriend and essentially telling me that I should be grateful her son was willing to date me. The condescension and presumption were breathtaking. But wait, it gets better. That same day, I started getting notifications that Jake's 22-year-old sister Brittany was posting Instagram stories that were clearly about me. Brittany was one of those wannabe influencers who had about 5,000 followers and posted constantly about lifestyle content, fashion, and relationship advice despite being single most of the time I'd known her. Her stories that day included gems like, some girls think they're too good to post their man, rolling eyes face emoji, pick me energy, and when you're embarrassed to claim your relationship publicly. Maybe you're with the wrong person, nail polish emoji, just saying. She didn't tag me or mention me by name, but anyone who knew about Jake and me would know exactly who she was talking about. I screenshot everything. The text from Carol, Brittany's stories, Jake's messages from the night of the party. Something told me I might need this evidence later, though I wasn't sure for what yet. That evening, I made my decision. I sent Jake a text message breaking up with him. It was direct and final. Jake, after thinking about what happened at Connor's party and the subsequent messages from your family, I've decided to end our relationship. Your priorities and mine don't align, and I don't want to be with someone who thinks humiliating me publicly is acceptable behavior. Please don't contact me again. The response was immediate and desperate. Within minutes, my phone was ringing. Jake called 17 times in a row. When I didn't answer, the texts started pouring in. Then Carol started calling. Then Brittany. All 3 of them were suddenly very concerned about misunderstandings and wanted to start fresh and work things out. Jake's messages were a masterclass in manipulation. Baby, please don't do this. I made a mistake. I was drunk and I said things I didn't mean. My family is just protective, they don't understand our relationship like we do. Can we please talk? I love you so much. This is all just a big misunderstanding. Carol's follow-up text was equally desperate but still condescending. Maya, Honey, I think there's been a miscommunication. Family is important to Jake, and when he's upset, we get protective. Maybe I came on too strong, but it's just because I want what's best for both of you. You kids today take things too seriously. Can we all sit down and talk like adults? Brittany's message was the most transparent. OMG Maya, I'm so sorry if my stories seemed like they were about you. They totally weren't. I was talking about this other situation. Jake is like devastated right now. He really loves you. Can you please just talk to him? I blocked all 3 of them on everything. Phone numbers, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn because Carol had apparently tried to connect with me there. I needed space to process everything that had happened, and I definitely didn't need the Johnson family drama in my life anymore. Update 1, posted 2 weeks later. So, a lot of you asked for an update, and honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to share more of this drama. But recent developments have been so wild that I feel like I need to document them somewhere, if only for my own sanity. 2 weeks after blocking the entire Johnson family, I was finally starting to feel normal again. I'd thrown myself into work, spent time with friends who actually respected me, and was generally feeling good about my decision to end that toxic relationship. But then my curiosity got the better of me. Here's the thing about working in digital marketing, you develop certain skills that come in handy for, let's call it, research purposes. I know how to find information online, how to track digital footprints, and how to uncover things that people think they've hidden. So when I started wondering what Jake was up to post-breakup, I decided to do a little investigating. I created a fake Instagram account using stock photos and a generic name, then started following Jake's public accounts. What I found was interesting but not entirely surprising. Jake had immediately pivoted to posting single guy content, gym photos with captions about focusing on myself, pictures at bars with friends, and motivational quotes about letting go of toxic people. Clearly, I was the toxic one in this narrative. But then I stumbled across something that made my blood boil. Jake had a second Instagram account that I'd never known about. It wasn't hidden exactly, but he'd never mentioned it to me, never followed me from it, and had apparently used it throughout our entire relationship to maintain a completely different online persona. This account presented Jake as a single man. Not recently single the entire time we'd been dating. The bio read Denver native, tech sales, always looking for adventure, DMs open. There were no couple photos, no mention of being in a relationship, nothing that would indicate he'd had a girlfriend for the past 8 months. But here's where it gets really disgusting. I scrolled through months of posts and found screenshot after screenshot of Jake sliding into other women's DMs. He was actively messaging multiple women, telling them he was single, asking them out on dates, and even arranging meetups. Some of these conversations were happening while we were on vacation together, literally while I was posting photos of us as a couple on my own account. In one particularly nauseating exchange from just 3 weeks before the party incident, Jake was telling some woman named Amanda that his couple photos were just for family appearances and that he was technically single and looking for someone real. Another conversation showed him making plans to meet up with a woman named Jessica for drinks on a night when he told me he was working late. The cherry on top? Carol and Brittany both followed this secret account. They were liking his posts, commenting supportive messages on his obvious flirting attempts, and clearly knew about his double life the entire time. When I saw Carol commenting so handsome, "You'll find the right girl soon," red heart emoji, on a post from 2 months ago, I realized that the whole family had been complicit in his deception. I spent hours that night taking screenshots of everything. The fake dating profile, the DM conversations, the family supportive comments on his cheating behavior. I organized it all into folders and saved everything both locally and in cloud storage. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this information yet, but I knew I wanted to have it documented. The next few days were surreal. Jake had apparently realized that I'd blocked him everywhere because he started trying to reach out through mutual friends. Connor, whose party had started this whole mess, called me to say that Jake was asking people to give me messages about how sorry he was and how much he wanted to fix things. He seems really torn up about it, Connor told me, though his tone suggested he wasn't entirely buying Jake's act. He keeps saying it was all a big misunderstanding and that he made a mistake. I didn't tell Connor what I discovered about Jake's secret account and his cheating. That information felt too powerful to share casually, and I was still processing what I wanted to do with it. But here's where it gets really interesting. While collecting screenshots of Jake's double life, I stumbled across something that's about to destroy not just him, but his whole self-righteous family. See, being in digital marketing means I know how to find things people think they've hidden. And Carol's traditional values and Brittany's influencer lifestyle aren't quite what they seem. Plus, Jake made one crucial mistake: he picked the wrong marketing professional to mess with. Trust me, you'll want to see what I found. Update coming tomorrow. Update 2, posted the next day. Okay, I promised you an update, and honestly, even I'm shocked by what I uncovered. Remember how I mentioned that picking a fight with someone in digital marketing was a bad idea? Well, Jake and his family are about to learn exactly why. After discovering Jake's secret dating life, I couldn't stop myself from digging deeper. It's like finding one lie makes you question everything, you know? So I started investigating the whole family, and what I found was absolutely incredible. Let's start with Jake's finances. While scrolling through his secret Instagram account, I noticed he was posting from some pretty expensive places and wearing designer clothes that seemed way beyond his tech sales salary. I remembered him being vague about money when we dated, always saying his investments were doing well when I comment on his spending habits. Here's where my digital marketing skills really came in handy. Jake had carelessly left his accounts logged in on some shared devices, and through a combination of cached data and poor password security, I was able to access some very interesting financial information. And by access, I mean information that was basically left wide open for anyone with basic technical knowledge to find. What I discovered was that Jake had been systematically embezzling from Carol's boutique business. Carol owns a small chain of women's clothing stores called Elegance by Carol that she's been running for about 15 years. Jake had somehow gotten access to the business accounts and had been transferring small amounts regularly to his personal accounts for at least the past year. The amounts weren't huge, usually between $500 and $1,500 per transaction, but they added up to over $30,000 that he'd stolen from his own mother's business. The transfers were cleverly disguised as consulting fees and marketing expenses, but when I cross-referenced them with Jake's personal spending, it was obvious what was happening. That expensive watch he'd bought himself last month? Paid for with money stolen from his mom. Those designer clothes he wore to look successful? Funded by embezzlement. But wait, it gets better. Remember Brittany, the wannabe influencer sister who posted those passive-aggressive stories about me? Turns out her successful lifestyle brand was built on some pretty questionable foundations. Brittany had about 5,000 Instagram followers and was constantly posting about her entrepreneur lifestyle and building her brand. She'd post pictures with designer handbags, expensive makeup, and luxury experiences, always with captions about investing in yourself and manifesting abundance. I'd always assumed her parents were funding her lifestyle while she figured out her career. But some of those luxury items looked familiar. After comparing her posts to Jake's, I realized they were wearing and using the same designer pieces. The Louis Vuitton bag that Brittany posted about treating herself to? Jake had posted a story with the same bag 2 weeks earlier. The expensive skincare products she was always promoting? They kept appearing in Jake's bathroom selfies. More digging revealed that Brittany was essentially using the embezzled money to buy items that they both used for content creation. But here's the really interesting part: Brittany's influencer income that she was always bragging about? It wasn't coming from brand partnerships or sponsorships like she claimed. It was coming from an account that she'd been running for over a year. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with but Brittany was attending a private Christian university on a scholarship that specifically required adherence to a moral conduct code. She was also living at home and taking money from her traditional values mother while secretly running an adult content business. The hypocrisy was staggering, especially considering how judgmental she'd been about my social media habits. But the absolute kicker was discovering that Brittany was using her family's money, including Jake's embezzled funds, to buy fake designer goods from overseas suppliers, then posting them on Instagram as if they were authentic. Her entire successful influencer image was built on counterfeit products funded by stolen money. At this point, I had enough information to destroy all three of them, but I wanted to be strategic about it. I spent the next week organizing everything into a professional presentation that would have made my boss proud. Screenshots, financial records, timestamps, cross-references. I treated it like a major marketing campaign, because in a way, it was. I was about to market the truth. First, I created a detailed report documenting Jake's embezzlement with dates, amounts, and evidence of how the money was spent. I sent this anonymously to Carol's business partners and accountant, as well as to Jake's employer's HR department. Corporate theft is a firing offense at his company, and I made sure they had everything they needed to investigate. Then I created a comprehensive expose of Brittany's fake lifestyle brand. I documented the counterfeit products, the misuse of scholarship money, and the secretive account that violated her university's conduct code. I sent this information to her academic advisor and the scholarship committee, along with evidence that she'd been using university resources to promote her adult content business. But my masterpiece was what I did with Jake's dating deception. I created a public Instagram account called Denver Dating Truth and posted a carefully crafted expose showing Jake's dual social media presence, complete with screenshots of his conversations with other women and evidence that his family knew about and supported his cheating behavior. The post went viral within hours. It turns out that several of the women Jake had been messaging recognized him and came forward with their own stories about his deception. One woman shared screenshots of Jake telling her that he'd just gotten out of a long relationship and was ready for something real. This conversation had taken place 2 days before he humiliated me at Connor's party. The response was immediate and devastating. Jake was fired from his job within 24 hours after his employer investigated the embezzlement claims. Carol's business partners confronted her about the missing money and threatened legal action if it wasn't repaid immediately. Brittany lost her scholarship and was placed on academic probation pending a conduct review. But the most satisfying part was watching the family turn on each other. Carol was furious when she discovered that Jake had been stealing from her business, but she was equally horrified to learn about Brittany's account. Jake was panicked about potential criminal charges and started blaming Brittany for corrupting him with her expensive lifestyle demands. Brittany was devastated about losing her scholarship and started posting angry stories about fake family support and people who throw you under the bus. The whole carefully constructed Johnson family image collapsed in a matter of days. Carol's traditional values were exposed as selective moral superiority. Jake's successful young professional persona was revealed to be built on theft and deception. Brittany's empowered influencer brand was shown to be funded by fraud and lies. I watched it all unfold from a safe distance, feeling a mixture of satisfaction and genuine shock at how quickly their house of cards fell down. These were the people who had lectured me about being a real woman and supporting my man publicly. These were the people who had humiliated me for not posting enough about my relationship while they were actively helping Jake maintain his fake single status. The irony was incredible. They'd attacked me for not posting about Jake enough, when the real problem was that Jake was posting too much, just not as my boyfriend. Update 3, posted 6 months later. It's been 6 months since I exposed the Johnson family's web of lies, and I thought you all deserved a final update on how everything played out. The karma has been absolutely incredible to watch unfold. Let's start with Jake. He's currently facing criminal charges for embezzlement. It turns out that once authorities started investigating, they found even more evidence of his theft from Carol's business. The total amount he stole was closer to $50,000, and because he used his access as a family member to commit the fraud, it's being prosecuted as a felony. He had to move back in with his parents because he couldn't afford rent after losing his job, which has created a lovely living situation for everyone involved. Jake's dating life, unsurprisingly, has completely imploded. The viral Instagram post about his deception was shared hundreds of times and tagged with Denver dating hashtags, so basically every single woman in the city now knows about his fake dating profile trick. Several women came forward with similar stories about his lies, and someone even created a Denver dating red flags account that features Jake as their primary example of men to avoid. Carol's boutique business nearly went bankrupt. After the embezzlement was discovered, her business partners demanded immediate repayment and threatened to pull out of their shared retail locations. Carol had to take out a second mortgage on her house to cover the stolen money and legal fees. The Elegance by Carol brand, which had built its reputation on family values and community trust, has been permanently damaged by the scandal. 2 of her 3 locations have closed, and she's struggling to keep the remaining store afloat. But here's the really poetic part: Carol's traditional values stance completely crumbled when the truth about her family came out. She's had to confront the fact that she raised a thief and was supporting his cheating behavior while lecturing me about being a real woman. Several members of their church community, where Carol was very active, have distanced themselves from the family because of the scandal. Brittany lost her scholarship and was expelled from her university for violating the conduct code. The combination of the account, the fake designer goods, and the misuse of scholarship funds was too much for the administration to overlook. She's now working retail at a makeup store and living back at home, which has created a wonderfully tense household dynamic with her mother, who still hasn't fully processed the situation. The ironic part is that Brittany's influencer dreams were actually destroyed by her obsession with fake internet credibility. All those posts about authenticity and building your brand while she was literally building her image on counterfeit products and stolen money. Her follower count has dropped to about 2,000, and most of her remaining audience seems to be there for the drama rather than lifestyle inspiration. As for me? I got a promotion at work after my boss was impressed with my investigative skills and attention to detail. When I explained the situation to her, without going into all the personal details, she said that my ability to research, organize information, and present evidence showed exactly the kind of analytical thinking they value in our department. I'm now a senior digital marketing coordinator with a significant salary increase. I'm also in a wonderful relationship with David, a 28-year-old graphic designer who works for the same company. We met at a work event about 3 months ago, and the difference between dating him and dating Jake is like night and day. David actually loves posting about me on social media, not because he's insecure or controlling, but because he's genuinely proud to be with me and wants to share his happiness. The best part is that David's social media posts about us are authentic and sweet, not performative or demanding. He'll post a picture of us hiking with a caption about how much fun we had exploring together, or share a story about a book I recommended that he ended up loving. It's the kind of natural, genuine sharing that Jake was always demanding but could never achieve because his motivations were so self-centered. About a month ago, Jake tried to reach out to me through our mutual friend Connor. Apparently, Jake wanted to apologize and explain that he'd learned from his mistakes and grown as a person. Connor, who witnessed the original humiliation at his birthday party, told Jake that he didn't think I'd be interested in hearing from him, but he'd pass along the message. When Connor told me about Jake's request, I laughed so hard I nearly choked on my coffee. My response was simple: maybe he should post about that apology on Instagram. I'm sure his 0 followers would love to hear about his personal growth. Connor found this absolutely hilarious and apparently shared my response with Jake, who didn't find it nearly as funny as we did. The whole experience taught me so much about red flags in relationships and the difference between genuine love and performative affection. Jake never actually wanted to share our relationship on social media because he was proud of me or happy with us. He wanted me to post about him because it served his ego and his image. Real love doesn't demand constant public validation or comparison to other couples. I also learned that social media manipulation often reflects deeper character issues. Jake's need to control my online presence was connected to his willingness to lie, cheat, and steal in other areas of his life. Someone who would humiliate their partner over Instagram posts is probably capable of much worse behavior, and I'm grateful that I found out sooner rather than later. For anyone reading this who might be dealing with a partner who's overly concerned with your social media presence, please trust your instincts. Healthy relationships don't require constant public performance or comparison to other couples. Someone who truly loves you will respect your boundaries and your communication style, not try to force you to broadcast your relationship in ways that make you uncomfortable. And for anyone who's ever been publicly humiliated by someone they trusted, know that the truth has a way of coming out eventually. Jake thought he could embarrass me into compliance, but his own behavior was so much worse than anything he accused me of. Sometimes the best revenge isn't planning elaborate schemes, it's just being patient enough to let people expose themselves. These days, I barely think about Jake or his family unless someone asks me for an update. I'm too busy being genuinely happy with someone who values me for who I am, not for how I can make him look online. David and I are planning to move in together next month, and we're both excited about building a real relationship based on mutual respect and authentic connection. The Johnson family is still dealing with the consequences of their actions, and probably will be for years to come. Meanwhile, I'm living my best life with someone who thinks I'm amazing exactly as I am, private social media habits and all. Sometimes the best revenge is just being happy. And posting about it occasionally, when you feel like it, without anyone demanding that you do. To everyone who followed this saga from the beginning, thank you for the support and validation. It helped me realize that I wasn't crazy for thinking their behavior was unacceptable. And to anyone dealing with similar relationship issues, remember that you deserve someone who celebrates you, not someone who demands that you celebrate them.